If we were standing around the LGBTQ plus water cooler, this is what we might all be talking about. It's sponsored by Hot Topic. Hot Topic is an American retail chain with nearly 700 locations specializing in counterculture-related clothing and accessories, as well as licensed music. Hot Topic represents many varied interests of the LGBTQ plus community, including music, movies, graphic artists, gaming, and more. Hot Topic features one of the largest collections of Pride merchandise that celebrate all aspects of the LGBTQ plus community. And Hot Topic is a major supporter of the diversity of our community and supports many events, festivals, and nonprofit LGBT organizations. Very notable is their support of the Trevor Project, the LGBTQ plus community's most important voice for LGBTQ plus young people. And that's why they are a sponsor of It's Happening Out's Hot Topic. Here we go. Gay Reddit had an interesting conversation this week in defending a twink, and that's what he called himself in Reddit, who got called a cheapskate for taking his date to Olive Garden. Dun, dun, dun. Do you think you are family when you are at Olive Garden? Well, not for the Reddit user whose date criticized him for treating him to dinner at the Italian-American restaurant chain. In a post at Ask Gay Bros, one account holder who claimed to work at Olive Garden shared a story of how his low-on-money date ridiculed him for choosing a restaurant where he works and using an employee discount to pay the bill. He shares that day after the day after they left, the date texted him, calling him a cheapskate. Though the post writer wants to forget this incident, the commenters at Ask Gay Bros are not tolerating the nonsense that they thought they were reading. One commentator said, quote, "The guy sounds like a gold digger to me. He doesn't want to pay for anything, but gets upset when the person treating him saves money," end quote. Was the employee cheap, or he just tried to save some money where he could? Our hot topic of the week: do gay men hate cheap guys?
Yes, you gay boys hate cheap guys. I have heard that from quite a few boys, that they have gone out with someone and be like, oh, that guy was too cheap. I'll never go out with him again. I think it was even elimination once that said about a date that used a Groupon or something like that, right?
I used the Groupon. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so was that you being cheapskate, or you just trying to?
I was being smart. I was being smart. And to your point, that's exactly where I was going. Go ahead and finish. I won't be Al. Go ahead and finish.
No, please go ahead.
No, but I think that this person was right on target. Sometimes you got to be smart about how you spend, A, first and foremost, and then B, how do you utilize the best opportunity for the date? So I did use the Groupon because it was someone that had already known we have been dating. So how do I spend more money on you later and still take you out today? And so that's what I read into this whole Reddit. The guy who didn't have any money is now want to judge. But to Faye's point, I do agree, unfortunately, as gays, try to hold people to a certain standard that we're often not willing to follow.
Why do we do that?
Because we're assholes, Al.
Well, not only that,
for yourself.
But see,
there you go.
But I am not, because again, I am that person that they use the Groupon. I am that person that will like ice cream. However, I will often lowball the very first outing just to see what kind of person you are, because often people will give you their best selves the honeymoon period. I'm going to show you who I am until y'all really get to know you. So it's nothing wrong with lowballing. When is it
good for you and I then?
I've known you for too long.
All right, elimination.
It's never.
Elimination, because I've done it myself, and then I've had someone else do it on a first date. Used a Groupon as like a way to sort of set up a date. Now, it wasn't for a restaurant; it was for like rock wall climbing and an escape room. And I thought I didn't think of them as cheap. I thought that's a great way to say, oh, hey, I've got this.
I got this Groupon.
Come do it with me.
Use it together.
Use it together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he had a good first date. He doesn't know it, but he had a good first date because he learned all he needed to know about that
This
person
guy,
to make
right?
sure that there isn't
You're
a second date.
absolutely
It's
right.
not
Is that
his
you?
people.
And
It was
your
me.
date?
It was me.
Okay.
It was my date. Yeah.
And Olive Garden isn't that cheap
It's
per
not.
se.
It's
Okay, he got a
not.
50% off discount. All right. Now he probably, Mr. Twink, you probably should have been more on the low when it came to that. You got a Groupon, take the waitress to the side and give it to
Right.
her, or give her your phone. Don't print it out on a big high gloss piece of paper and go, "Here's my Groupon." I mean, or I'm taking you here because I get half off. You know what I mean? Like, use your words.
And I appreciate that because the funny story with the whole Groupon that I shared with you guys is someone who watched the show who I dated. He later on after we broke up, he was like, I peeped how you took me on a date on a Groupon. And I was like, well, dude, it was an Indian restaurant. Neither one of us had ever been before. It was my way of introducing you to it as well as myself.
Does this? I'm curious. Do you think this attitude? You say gay guys are assholes. And
I
there's
said
some.
we.
Okay.
We, because
right.
girls are assholes too.
Oh, okay. All right. So broadly.
For sure.
Okay. All right. Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
We were not. Trini, I will not let you. I will not.
But
Next time I
does
fill in,
this
do I get to sit
change
next to Faith?
As you get older, it changes, that you care less about the amount of money that's being exchanged? Or is this a young thing? Is it a Gen Z thing? Is it a millennial? Is it a
I don't
Gen
think so, because
Gen X?
I've asked one of my very dear but older friends to go with me to my favorite restaurant, Long John Silver's. And I've been asking this person for years. And this older
He's
person
reading me
is
right
still
now.
like, absolutely
I
not.
won't go
Long
to Long
John
John
Silver.
Silver.
Oh, the LJS is so good.
Hold on, pause. Do you know that every other story is a name drop with Al? Do you know that every other story is the place that he's been, somewhere he's traveled, or someone he's played with?
Okay,
so he
So
can.
you're getting that wrong. It's not a name drop. It is truthful experience.
All right, so
I know your point.
I'm split on this, right? So I think we can all agree that this guy who had no money and wanted somebody else to pay was in the wrong. Just ridiculous that
Yes.
you would even bring that up. But I know that my mom, when I was young, she always told me, and she did this with her friends and everything. She said, if you want to take somebody out or you want to go on a date or something like that, of course she was assuming woman, that if you're the one who asks, you're the one who pays, right? And so I've always carried that with me. And I know as we got older and society's modern and she was, back in a different time, we generally go Dutch. But my tendency is when I'm going out with somebody younger, which is pretty much everybody, I feel a sense of responsibility to somebody in their 20s. I'm like, you don't have enough money to be going Dutch with me in this restaurant or something. So I always end up paying just because I feel like it's they shouldn't be using their money to try to.
Because you're not taking them to Long John Silver's. You're taking them to a nice restaurant.
Yeah, something like
Well,
that.
he's trying to be.
I don't-
but I do believe in,
R.
kind
Kelly.
of
That's
a
R.
little
Kelly
I
right
don't
there.
story
think
like
that there's anything wrong with that.
It's not, and I agree with you.
Nothing.
There is nothing wrong with it. But at the same time, it's a matter of. And so, out to your original question, I think as the older you get, the worse you are, because you feel that you hit a certain level of entitlement
Yep.
where you have came in your world in your journey, and therefore you won't settle for less. We had a whole conversation here, one story about a bar whose rates were astronomical. And we had a big debate about what people would
Los
go in.
Angeles, West
Absolutely,
Hollywood, Santa
because when we
Monica.
get to a certain age, we feel we should be entitled or get treated a certain kind of way.
You know, it's funny, and the reason I asked the question is, and again, let me head you off on the one trick pony that you are in terms of joke about me, of don't make that joke because it wouldn't be appropriate here. I have a black card. I have spent money on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in the last 20 years and have never given a second thought. The amount of money that I spend in a bar or the amount of money that I spend in the travel experience or food or whatever, it's just, it is what it is. I'm making the choice of whatever it is that I want to do. This is offensive to me because at the end of the day, I have a friend, very close friend, all of y'all know, who was a server for a restaurant, and frequently we will go to his restaurant, not the one he works at, but another one where he gets 50% off, and he wants to do that because it's a less expensive way for him to eat out.
And the food is great.
And the food is good, and I'm paying half. We're paying half on it, and I'm paying my half on my black card, and that's completely okay. I don't understand this gay mentality of going, if you don't pay and it's not the quality that I want, that I'm rejecting.
I don't
Then
think
he's
men
not the
like
quality that you want. You know what I mean? You said if food isn't the quality you want, he's not the quality of person that you want.
Who cares if we're going to the Olive Garden, or we're going to the Capitol Grill. What difference does it make?
Yes, and so to your point, I'm going to push back a little bit because I was not going to go there.
Yeah.
However, because I have a black card, you may have a black card. Any of us can have it. It's whether we choose to utilize it at that given moment.
Share it.
And share it and at that moment. And so to your point, I think it's all in what your palette shows you and how you look at what life shows. In this scenario, what you're doing is you're allowing that person to be what they want to give to you in their journey, and they feel good about it, and you're still allowing them to be in that space positive. Because you could very well be that this is below me. I don't need to be around in this space, and you're not. So kudos to you, which I can't believe I'm saying it as this show. But end of the day, we all could have money. It's just how in which we choose to use. Because there's a stand, keeping up with the Joneses. You can only keep up with the Joneses if you choose.
If you got Jones money.
But guess what? You stay in Jones money because I'm not going to live your life. I'm going to live mine.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know what? I have a Diners Club card. They take it at Long John Silver.
That's right. And the point, it's really, yeah, they do.
They do.
Do they have Diners Club?
Ooh, that's the joke.
Right. And at the end of the day, the question here is this, the reason I ask you about age, for me, as I get older, I care less and less and less. I've got shoes out the yin yang, quality, clothes out the, I don't care about that. Is that an issue that is not being addressed in Ask Gay Bros?
Well, that's a luxury you have at your age. Were you able to care, like, did you have the luxury to not care so much when you were 22, 23?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you came from a well-to-do family.
No. It was all born on my back. But that's not my point.
That's not, yeah.
My point is, why do we obsess over this so much? Why would somebody even go to the extent of taking it a step farther to text that to say, thank you for the date. I really enjoyed you. And by the way, you're a cheapskate.
Because we're very entitled.
Entitlement. It's entitled.
We're very entitled. I mean, there's a crazy line between being super insecure and then thinking way higher about yourself than you really are.
Yeah.
I don't believe that is close to the majority of gay men. I think that's just an anomaly for me in my experience, but maybe I'm a little rose. I don't know.
Look, as a girl, okay, and being raised by people that thought I was going to be hetero my whole life, right? They were always like, hey, if the man doesn't take you to a nice restaurant and pays, you're never going to see him again.
Yeah, that's a horrible standard on both sides. For the person that's going to pay for it, it's a horrible standard, but the person that's going to expect it, it's a horrible standard. If we don't go into it equal and say, wait, I have the capability, so therefore I will, and I choose to do that, or I don't have the capability, will you, and you are choosing to participate in that, unless there's agreement. That's what this
Yes, I agree with you.
I understand it for women, but not for men, because for women, they have all these extra expenses that they do to make themselves look good. They've got to do their nails, which is like $30. They got to do
$30, $70, bitch. $70
you got to do your hair. So I think for women it's different. Between two men, I don't know.
But it also all depends on what the guys do, what the guy does for a living. You understand?
There's that too.
I'm married to my wife, and that bitch makes 6 figures. Okay, so she's paying when we're going out. I'm paying with my little queer news tonight money. All right, like I mean, hello, you know. So I'm sitting there. I don't even look at the check.
I'm right there.
It's also societal norms. That's where if I'm giving you some, or if a person feels that they're giving them their body part, meaning they're the most submissive or that they're less dominant in a relationship, then therefore they should be treated X amount of way to give you the gift of their body.
Yeah.
And so that's societal norms.
Yeah.
Again, if you're being treated X, Y, and Z, then therefore they have to pay for X, Y, and Z.
Last point, as we finish our hot topic, is this a more unique gay thing, or do straight people have the same issue?
I think straight people have it more. I think women generally expect men. There are a lot of women who are more traditional that always expect the man to pay and the man to take care of them because that's the sex role. I don't feel like it. I don't ever. Do you all experience this in the gay community? That the guys are always expecting another guy to pay or anything like that?
Before coming down here, and without going into lots of details, every person that was around me expected it.
Really?
Every single person.
Because they knew you were rich. Because they knew you had a black card.
Or that you had money.
Yeah, on a normal date, you pretend to go for the check, but just like, the dinosaur arms, like only a little bit, you know?
Right. Okay.
That's a good way to end it.
All right. Please summarize the entire thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Ask Gay Bros.
I'm going to use that one.
You'll get it right. All right. We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show from Happening Out Television Network. In the model of PBS and NPR, we educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of the LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the stories going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.